wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, that I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
Welcome back to another edition of the Enough Said program. My name is Dan Barreiro. I'm joined as always by Justin Gaard and the parade marshal, Maple Grove, Minnesota.
You may have seen her.
No, I was
Lori
only
Fisher.
on a float.
In
I was
Maple
not
Grove.
the parade marshal.
You felt like you were the people's marshal.
I haven't risen to that yet.
I figured I might as well bring it up right away, Justin, because you know she was going to wedge it in at some point.
Yes.
I wasn't.
Oh, you weren't?
But thank you.
We have a long show. There was plenty of time to bring it up.
I'm flattered. And after a week off for the holidays, we're back together.
It's good to see all of you.
Missed everybody.
President Biden vows to stay in the race despite calls to step aside. He believes he is the best to take on former President Trump. Thursday night was his first solo news conference this year. And especially after last week's debate, people are wondering how would he do, or the week before. Biden did have some missteps, though. He said Vice President Trump, as we just heard, instead of Vice President Harris. And then going back to what actor George Clooney said, who is a prominent Democratic Party fundraiser, the president has won many battles, but the one battle he cannot win, according to Clooney, is the fight against time. Dan.
He also, in an earlier presser, he called Zelensky Putin, correct?
Right. Yes.
The look on Zelensky's face was, man, he was just kind of shaking his head. Some righty, I don't remember who it was, said, I think President Biden would shrug off a throat kick from Oprah. He does give that impression that he's not going to give up this fight. Now, whether eventually he gets forced to, we'll talk about that today. There was something historic about yesterday's press conference, I think, because the opposing party apparently was hoping and begging that he'd kill it.
Yeah.
And his own party, or at least many members of his own party, were hoping he would stink, he would choke, he would be awful, which tells you the weird times, I think, in which we live. And I looked at it, everybody had their opinion on it. My opinion was it's in some ways the worst case scenario, because I put it kind of in a purgatory thing where he was nowhere near, he didn't bomb. He wasn't that bad where even the president, even the president's wife might say, look, we got it. We didn't want to do this, but we have to do it. And I don't also think he was bad enough, I think, to necessarily grow the momentum among the Democrats who said, we've got to move on this thing. I think he bought time, but I'm not sure if you're a Democrat, you're necessarily excited about that prospect.
Well, given that more Democrats last night said he should step down, and the list of celebrity Democrats, including George Clooney, that continue to say it's probably time to move on to somebody else is growing and growing and growing as well. All ages, all demographics, he's kind of got it from all angles. I'm curious, Dan, what you think, because you mentioned the press conference on Thursday was supposed to be some type of benchmark, but I don't really think there was much he could have done in the press conference to assuage all the fears. I think the only thing he could do is have another rock star debate, and there's not going to be one before they have to make these crucial decisions. I think the next debate
mid-September
is not until mid-December, so it you wonder why they did one so early, which was his idea, because he doesn't have any time, I don't think, to rebound from it. And it seems like there's just more and more people saying it's probably time to move on. You know that George Clooney, who opened that piece saying, I'm a proud Democrat, lifelong Democrat, wants the best for the Democratic Party.
And despises Trump.
Like a lot of people do, I think you and I included, would not have done what he did accidentally if he didn't feel like he had a lot of the thoughts and the feelings of a lot of people in Congress, out of Congress, other powerful Democrats. It's almost like he was maybe chosen to be the one to be the bad guy and the fall guy in this. He wouldn't just do this on a whim, and that's why I think it's going to be so tough to recover from, because once all this toothpaste gets out of the tube, it's almost impossible to put it back in.
Well, it is, you know, and I find myself in a weird position because, and I think this is part of the media problem, the so-called mainstream media part of the story, in that I think they have tried to have it both ways, where now mainstream this is a 5-alarm fire, where we are breaking down every piece of video. We're looking back on every meeting, everything that's happened in a way that we didn't before, while at the same time, before the debate, they were saying, you know what, this is mostly right-wing talking points that are suggesting that there's a problem with the president. And the truth has always been somewhere in between. So instead of going from 5 miles per hour on this story to 85 miles per hour on this story, we probably always should have been going 55, the speed limit, like 60, which I don't think we've had very, very consistently. So I've reached a point, as odd as it sounds, where I'm now sometimes suspicious of some of the second looks we're getting at some of the behavior of the president, where I go, was that really that bad, or does everything now look bad because the feeding frenzy is on? None of this solves the problem on what the Dems do. And I think more than anything else, there's too many Democrats who keep going back, well, look at his record.
Yep.
They got to understand this isn't about his record at this point.
Right.
It should be, but it isn't. It's about, can he beat President Trump or former President Trump?
Right.
That's the
Vice
story.
President Trump.
Vice President Trump. That to me is the story, and that's where the real debate has to take place. And that's why a lot of respected Democrats are saying we're in trouble,
and we got
to cut our losses.
That next debate is September 10th.
September 10th.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's too late. I mean, that's too late for him to decide one way or the other.
Too. A tough loss for the football community. Minnesota Vikings fourth-round pick cornerback Kyrie Jackson was killed in a car crash last week in his hometown of Maryland. The car he was riding in with two former high school teammates was hit by another car going at a high rate of speed. The Vikings saying they are devastated by this news, that it was evident Kyrie was going to develop into a tremendous player, Justin.
Well, it's a tragedy, obviously, and it's infuriating when you learn the details. And how often do we see these stories late at night, someone acting like an idiot, doing something they're not supposed to be doing, and three kids, even though I know they were 23, 24 years old, just going about their evening, caught in the wrong place at the wrong time in what should be a completely preventable situation. And what also usually happens in this case, the perpetrator, the one acting like an idiot, somehow survives while an entire car is dead. And in the prime of his life, in the prime of their lives, it's always, as we said on the radio earlier this week, Dan, rough when you talk about the age, the pictures that he was posting on Instagram as recently as, I think, the afternoon of the accident. This was probably the best 2 or 3 month stretch of Kyrie's life. And he had an unbelievable story of how he got to the NFL, of what he did in between multiple college stops, jobs that he worked, people that he met, decisions that he had to make to put himself in a better situation. Seemed like he had done all of that. He was only here for a couple mini camps and the rookie mini camps and everything that comes with that. Obviously made a huge impression. And tragedy is obviously the big word here, but ridiculous and really just foolishness on somebody else that led to this that makes it infuriating.
Well, when we've talked about this before, when young people, individuals his age, are killed, it feels weightier just because this isn't the natural order of things, right? When you get older, it's going to end. That's the way it works. It's not fun at the time, but it's sort of what you expect. When someone this age goes, it's difficult. And I told the story on the radio. My cousin was killed in that Value Jet plane crash in 1996 in a plane that crashed into the Everglades. And of course, I attended the funerals in Bloomington, Indiana. She was a student at Indiana University. And I'm looking around at the service, and obviously it's mainly people her age. It's
College
young
kids.
people. And
Yep.
so it always hits, I think, the rest of us harder when it's somebody that age and you say, no, this is not the natural order of things at all. And you add the other layer that you mentioned, Justin, a reckless idiot driver,
30.
potentially with alcohol involved, I think. I don't know if that's yet been established. But regardless, creating a dangerous situation, not getting a scratch, and ending the lives of several other individuals, including this, promising football player who may have had a chance, but we'll obviously never know.
Yeah, enough said. The next topic, the new Netflix docuseries Receiver dropped this week, starring Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson. Last season focused on then Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins. This time around, you can check out Jefferson's life, as well as 4 other pass catchers. What do we think? Have we dug in yet and binged any of a Receiver yet, Dan?
I have not, but I didn't really binge on the quarterback one.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Here's the big difference. Cousins, to a large extent, needed it to endear himself to some fans who didn't think he was human. They thought he was a robot, right?
Yeah.
JJ is already beloved.
Yes.
So he doesn't really need it.
We're all excited about JJ.
Did you see the one quote that's getting attention? Because I do think this is a good one on JJ. No one in this game could ever tell me to not play or to tank the season or to do any of that other stuff because I'm not that type of person. I don't know the context, but I love what he seems to be saying, which is, I'm not going to play by whatever rules are, that I'm supposed to slow play contract things or get cranky or leak stuff, which I think makes him an adult and makes him extremely professional. So he will be, I think, he'll gain more points from Vikings fans out of statements like that. But let's face it, he was already in a very different position than Kirk Cousins was when it comes to the need for this documentary to make people like it.
I think people are more excited to watch JJ's inclusion, and they're glad that he's part of it. That, you know, Cousins, it was more informative and maybe like a fact-finding thing. Certainly, JJ's brand is strong, as you mentioned, and I love the Minnesotan in us, Dan. And I've watched a couple episodes. I watched 1.5 the other night. And all the Minnesotans are bitter is that it's taking a long time to get to JJ. They think that the documentary should actually be called 49ers because a lot of it has to do with Deebo Samuel and George Kittle in the first episode. By the way, they made the Super Bowl. By the way, their team has been pretty good. By the way, those guys have been in the league for a while. So I had no issues with it. But it's going to be cool to see JJ. I think the quote you're mentioning had to do with coming back from injury. That's the other part of it. Right. We're going to see JJ get hurt, have to go through that whole process, play with like 9 quarterbacks a year ago. I'd actually be more interested in behind the scenes this year when he doesn't have Kirk Cousins and he's got Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy possibly as his quarterback options. Will he be as affable as he usually is? That's what I'd want to see behind the scenes.
And 3 years from now when they do the follow-up, will we be all talking about J.J.'s talent wasted because of quarterback challenges in Minnesota?
Very possibly.
That's the elephant in the room, let's face it.
Line drive right up the middle into center field. Brooks Lee delivers. The Twins have the go-ahead run.
Welcome back to Enough Said. The voice of the Lynx, Marnie Gellner, called the Twins versus White Sox series in Chicago the first woman as the Twins play-by-play announcer during the regular season. And big news yesterday, utility player Willie Castro named to the first All-Star game. The Twins take on the San Francisco Giants this weekend, and you can see Saturday's game right here on Fox 9. Dan.
Oh,
yeah, that's big.
Just part
you can
of the
actually
Fox,
see
it's
it
part
on
of the
Fox 9,
games.
you say?
It's just part of our schedule.
I'm going to watch like my third.
But you can see the game.
That sounded like a dig, Lori. Sounded like a Bally Sports dig right there.
Take it away.
That's what it sounded like.
They took her off the screen.
Marnie Gellner, I think, we had her on, had a nice conversation with her on the show day 2. That day, that game ended up being rained out, and then she had to do a doubleheader.
Yeah.
Which can't be easy.
Extra innings night 1, doubleheader night 3.
One of the things I love about Marnie is she just wants to do the work, man. She really doesn't want to be a pioneer, even though she is, because she is making history for this team. And I think like a lot of us have been in the market for a while, we've all sort of appreciated the way her career has moved from sideline reporter, right, in some cases, to voice of the Lynx, et cetera. So I'm not at all surprised. Her manner, I thought, the parts I heard was very well done. Although, as I said to you, Guardsy, and I said to her, it takes time, man. I mean, it's like anything. You need repetition.
Right.
And baseball is such it's such a remarkable skill to have, to be a play-by-play baseball guy, because it's so different, as she acknowledged, from the continuous action, relatively speaking, that you're going to get in basketball or, to a certain degree, football.
Now more than ever before because of the inactivity in baseball that they've tried to fix, that we've talked about forever and ever. There's not a lot of stolen bases. There's not a lot of balls put in play. There's a lot of strikeouts, which probably makes sense then to have a three-person booth, because I think Denard Span and Justin Morneau were in there. I've only been able to see the highlights. As we mentioned, I don't get to watch the Twins because I have Xfinity, so that means I don't have Bally. I look forward to Saturday on Fox. I'm going to make sure I set a DVR reminder, but it always made sense that Marnie would be the one here in town to break these barriers, get these glass ceilings, whatever it is, right? I mean, who else would it be? I know we've got a lot of talented people in the market, but she's been around forever. She's done every single job. She's done every single job well. She has weathered a lot of storms at her own network with the teams and everything, so it's perfect that it's her. Yeah. And everybody loves her. She's beloved, which is hard to do. So it was awesome to see her get that, and obviously do the long day on Wednesday with the doubleheader. The team in of itself is in an interesting spot because they're all of a sudden pretty good now. Their record, I think, is pretty respectable. They're on pace to win 91 or 92 games. Their offense, almost no matter who is in there, is lights out. Lori mentioned Willie Castro, a well-earned all-star nod for him. He's been phenomenal with no load management. He's played in every single game. Brooks Lee, the highlight that Marnie brought us back with there, has been a revelation as well, who was replacing Royce Lewis, who was also a revelation. The team is good. Now, they've got a couple of weeks before the trade deadline. They can afford to go get a big-name starter, Dan, and they need one. And they maybe could move over a little bit some of the negativity by actually going out and adding to the payroll for a change. I have no faith that they're going to do it, but it's there for them, and that's what they need.
That would change the conversation a little bit. I think the last I checked, they are in the American League are 10th in earned run average, which is not the bottom of the barrel, but not good enough. And I think it points to the fact that that's where you do it, and that's where, from the beginning of the season, I think some of us have said, you might have a great lineup eventually.
Yeah.
Take full advantage of it by bringing back the kind of starting pitching that you had a year ago.
Next up, Indiana Fever's Caitlin Clark will be here on Sunday to face the Lynx at the Target Center. Last check, tickets are limited, courtside, big bucks. The Lynx won their last 2 games and take on the Seattle Storm tonight, Justin.
Yeah, this is the weekend everybody's been looking forward to. We're not sure if Collier's going to play tonight or if they hold her out in hopes that she's going to play on Sunday. But on the Caitlin Clark phenomenon coming through town, she was obviously here for an extended stay when the Iowa Hawkeyes won the Big Ten tournament at Target Center this past March. Was here for the last couple of years. We know there's going to be a lot of Iowa fans making the trip here because that's what they do. They took over Target Center in back-to-back years. What I love about the Caitlin Clark discussion is that it's all about the basketball here recently. It's all about how she's playing. It's all about how the Fever are playing. It's all about the individual matchups. There hasn't been a lot of the nonsense and BS that we've been talking about really since the day she was drafted. So it feels like everything's kind of calmed down on that front, which I think is the best part about the whole deal. It is about the basketball right now, which is great.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before, that eventually the hope was she would play well enough that whatever people, some folks who continue to be resentful for some idiotic reason, are less likely to go as public because no one wants to hear it. And she's playing really well.
She's playing great.
She had 29 points in a game that the team lost, but she also she had the first triple-double in the history of the league,
for
if I'm
a rookie.
not mistaken.
Yep.
Or is it for a rookie?
Yep.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
Okay. And so at some point you got to go, well, she is good. And if the team's not great yet, might be because she doesn't have a lot of great players around her. And you've brought this up before, and I think I'm seeing it more and more. As Indiana, if they're able to add talent and add better players, there's no telling what she's going to be able to do as a passer.
Right.
Because her passing, I think right now she's a top 5 passer in the league, period, end of story.
Totally.
And if there are many plays that break down, not because she hasn't delivered a terrific pass, but because someone's been unable to finish the play
Enough said.
successfully. So the interesting question, though, so it's the old deal, who gets the cheers? Like, are people going to be cheering for the Lynx, or are they going to be cheering for Caitlin Clark, or
both.
can you do both?
It's going to be a lot of both. They're getting standing ovations on the road. She is,
Yeah.
in particular, and
Right.
I have no reason to believe it'll be any different on Sunday.
You know, the Target Center would be a great place to get away from the 90-degree heat on Sunday.
Good point, yeah.
The State Fair released its new foods for 2024.
Here we go.
Oh, good.
33 of them, official new foods, 6 new vendors. That means there are now 1,600 eats to choose from throughout the fairgrounds.
Who counts them up?
The State Fair.
Hopefully the
there's
fair.
grilled purple sticky rice, marble sundae, Swedish soda sliders. It's been our #1 story on our website, fox9.com,
Yep.
for days now.
Yep.
The big one everyone here seems to love is the deep fried ranch dressing. What do you guys think?
That's the one that stuck out to me immediately, the deep fried ranch. Because ranch, Dan, is good on pretty much anything.
Yeah, I don't.
So the deep friedness nature of it, I'm very curious about that. And that's like, is that a good way to start the fair or a good way to end the fair? Or both? I'm trying to figure out, because I'm definitely going to try those, as are the dill tots that just scrolled through the machine, the TV there.
Dill tots interest me.
Dill tots sound outstanding.
Any tots sound outstanding.
Exactly.
to
So a
me,
little dill
yeah.
pickle there and top it off with some deep fried ranch. I like the
So
list.
what's the lesson here? Is it we're fascinated with the foods, or we just have such deep affection for everything State Fair related that we're going to grab onto it and look? What's the
A little bit of both.
You're the ones of us
Yeah.
here. I'm the interloper who has only been here since 1986.
Well, I'm curious if this got any run at Fox 9, because I heard it on our radio station earlier this week on The Fan that they did a poll of all the states, and of the top 10 states that love their own fair, Minnesota was not represented.
How's that possible?
That's what I said. So I think we need some type of Paul Bloom investigation into that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that poll, but I know we said, what are you looking most forward to? In our Good Day poll, the food won.
Well, I guess people do. They think the fair, they think feedback.
That's what
right?
it is.
That's
we
really
wait for
for
the
adults,
grandstand acts, right?
Yeah.
We can't wait to hear who's at the grandstand.
And watch the Bumper to Bumper program on
Yes,
KFAN.
3 to 6:30,
Right, and
Carousel
then the
Park.
live-
Nice of you to stop by, Lori.
And then I do stop
Oh, you
by.
do,
I
that's
just
right.
utterly fail every time I do.
Yeah, it's a little bit. You gotta step up your game a little bit.
And
this
then we
year, I
will
think.
be taping, enough said.
What?
Is that
live
confirmed?
at the fair, taping and live.
Rain or shine? Rain or shine, we will be there.
Shine.
We'll be ready to go.
At around
9:30?
12:30 both Fridays.
Okay, both Fridays.
Okay, so Chris, you can take away, start the music.
Bring us some ranch.
The lightning round is next.
Bring us some tots.
I don't like ranch as much as I used to.
And some ranch.
But that, I mean, you gotta like ranch, don't you?
I can't have gluten, so I won't be able to try it.
When did that start?
She got it in there.
When did that start? First I've heard of this.
Welcome back to Enough Said. A big week for Anthony Edwards. The Wolves star is getting ready for his first Olympics. With Team USA, the 22-year-old star, as we said, believes he is the #1 option for the red, white, and blue. Dan.
I don't even know if he believes that. It was a dumb question. I'm annoyed by the whole thing.
Yeah.
What I will say is I saw another Kevin Durant interview, and the interviewer was asking him about Edwards. And what comes across is I do think he's a popular player.
Yes.
With teammates. I'm thinking it's because he's fairly authentic, you know? They may not, they may roll their eyes at a couple things that he says, but I don't think they feel like there's a lot of agenda with him.
Right.
And they all seem to get a kick out of him. And he's going to be, obviously, a key piece. Whether he starts or doesn't, he's going to be a key piece.
And he pumps everybody up, personally.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We saw that with the Wolves.
You can't argue his confidence.
He's a good teammate.
The NBA has signed new deals with Amazon, NBC, and ESPN for 11 years. $76 billion. Bad news, though, for fans inside NBA's TNT. Didn't retain any rights, though has a couple days to match.
I'm still holding out hope that they find some way to figure out something. Although, will it even matter? Charles Barkley's already said he's doing one more year and then it's over. I have to imagine if Warner Brothers TNT got some type of package, he would still want to try to be a part of it. I'm surprised they're doing 11-year deals, given how this thing seems to change every 12 minutes. Why they would want to lock in so much. Can't argue with the money. The money continues to go up, but the term surprised me.
76. I mean,
billion.
These are numbers you can't even begin to comprehend.
Next up, new
national TV like every night of the week, pretty much, for the NBA
true.
once it gets going.
New booze options for Gopher fans.
You can take this one, Lori.
Starting this fall, you can get a canned and batched. I had to look up what batch cocktail means. It's just like a pre-made drink.
Don't act like you don't know.
Yeah.
At concession stands.
Because you never pre-batch yours. You don't trust their batch. You want more. So
right, I want to see it put together.
Yeah.
Beer and wine were already available at games, but this is they're trying to keep up with all these other venues.
Well, my guess is if history is to repeat itself, we'll be the one place where this will be the one university that will lose money.
That only happened once.
Selling booze.
That only happened once.
You love that story being repeated and run into the ground.
Well, I actually do because it was so
And
us.
Finally.
It was us. It really was.
I'm going to try to get some of that delivered to the sideline, by the way, in the fourth quarter.
Well, I like
right
that.
before my interview with PJ, so I can have it for after.
MSP International Airport ranked #1 according to Travel and Leisure's 2024 World's Best Awards. Airports were rated on things like check-in, security, restaurants, bars, designs. Dan, you were just there. What do you think?
Well, it's a wonderful airport as long as you don't want to get directly to baggage claim after you get off a flight at 11 p.m.
Super easy.
Which is what happened to me the other day.
Be
I don't know. Here's my fear. They're going to get cocky out there because they're getting now almost too much praise. We got to keep them honest a little bit, don't we?
Well, they've been getting praised for a while, and what do they do,
How about
Dan?
some humility?
Enough said.
No, I like the anti-Minnesotan.
Well, you can always catch us on the Fox Local app. It's free. It's not just Enough Said. It's the Jason Show. It's Taste Buds. It's our morning show.
It's mostly
our
Enough Said.
Night newscast. It's our Viking shows. Everything but mostly Enough Said.